thanks to Kumar for inviting me to be with you here today at the CLO Summit, and to Leap Vault as well for a topic that I think is extremely critical at this time in India's growth and development. So there was a guy who opened up his own hotel, and he put all of the right systems in place, he got all of the right staff in place, as he thought. First day it opened, he was standing by the side, waiting for his customers to come into the restaurant. Two gentlemen walked into the restaurant. They sat down, he was watching, and the first man says to the waiter, "Bhaiya, bring us 2 glasses of water." The waiter nodded okay. And just as the waiter was walking away, one of the men said that, "Oh, and by the way, make sure it's a clean glass." The waiter walked away. A minute or two later, the waiter comes back with the tray of the glasses. He said, "Sir, here's your water. And which one of you wanted the clean glass?" So sometimes what happens is that we put all of our systems in place, spend a lot of money, we even invite someone great over with some program to train on people or some new fangled idea. And at the end of the day, it comes down to that one point where the rubber meets the road and it doesn't work. And I've seen this kind of thing again and again, and as I've been here in India for a long time, I've learned lots of words, lots of new words as I learned my Hindi, such as kaamchor, teed, bishram. So I've learned lots of these words because you do everything and you give them all the incentives, and no matter what, still at the end of the day, somehow it doesn't work. And we ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? And so what I would like to do is I would like to share with you today a model that I have developed that I think answers a very large question in terms of what we need to do to ultimately get the kind of success that we're looking for. And as I've been here for a long time, it's 20 years that I've been in India. I think when I started out, I had brown hair. I have a few left, they tell me, in the back. I think each one of these gray hairs is an Indian experience that I've had in learning how to guide, how to direct, and how to make things work in education, and educating others. And what I've come up with is a concept called the multiple natures framework. And I would share this with you today. It's especially effective for people who are recruiters and anybody who's trying to get people to do what it is that we want them to do, so we achieve the goals that we set out as organizations. My concept builds both off of Eastern and Western philosophies or perspectives. And one of the basic ones is, it goes back to an idea that was set forth by, it might have been Confucius or Buddha. It's attributed to many of the ancient thinkers, which is that when people like what they do, work ceases to become work and it becomes play. And I think each of us believes and knows deeply in our hearts that we ultimately want to enjoy what we do. If you take a look actually at what the requirements are, what people want to have in terms of a career, the first thing they want is security. After that, they want to enjoy the work that they do. Salary comes 3rd or 4th on the list, believe it or not. So we're looking to do things that we enjoy doing. And if we take a look at the Western concept, you might have heard of Csikszentmihalyi's philosophy of flow, where we get into our work, and when we're doing what we do and we love what we do, we're sort of at peace with ourselves and at ease with ourselves and the world and the universe. And that's where we want to be. We love what it is that we do. In the Eastern concept, we have a similar idea of yoga, which also means to connect. And I'll bring up a few shlokas later from Gita that also reinforce this idea of being engrossed in what it is that we should be doing, and why that's actually the most important aspect of our work. But not each of us is able to find that kind of flow, or that kind of yoke, that connection to who we are, what it is that we want to do. In fact, when Kumar came up and he began his address, he started by saying that he did not have a background in this particular area. But yet he finds himself the head of an organization that's actually helping people to learn in a corporate perspective. And I would think that many of you are in roles right now that you never would have imagined when you were back in high school or college. I'm sure there are some of you out there who had other plans for what it was that you wanted to be or wanted to do. Life is like that. It was like that for me. When I first started off when I was in college, my idea was that I wanted to be a rock star. Partially because my musical abilities are pretty good. And I thought that that's what I was going to become. And I moved to New York City to find my fame and fortune as a rock star. But as it goes, aspiring rock stars don't make a lot of money. In fact, they don't make any money. And in order to pay the rent, to make rosy roti, I had to get a part-time job. And I was walking down the streets of New York one day and I saw this ad that said, wanted English teachers. I thought, you know, I speak English. I could do that, why not? So I went, got the job, and I got to my first classroom. And mind you, it's not what I really wanted to do. I was just looking to pay the bills. Got to my first class. 25 kids were there. I was teaching them English. Started to teach. And about 20 or 30 minutes into it, I sort of started getting this warm feeling inside, feeling really good about what I was doing. And I said to myself, you know, this feels right. I know this. It's like I feel like a fish in water. I knew this all along. Then it was as if, you know, the clouds parted, and, you know, some roshni came from the back, some violins started to play. And then, suddenly, this great Akashvani came from the sky and said, Steve, you're not a rock star, you're a teacher. Teacher? Yeah, that's right. And at the end of the class, I remember saying to myself, you know, I could do this for the rest of my life. And I have. Many years later, I still find myself in the same profession. It's evolved, but fundamentally, I still base a lot of what I do on education, teaching, helping others learn. With that, I decided that I wanted to come to a point where I wanted to create a school to help other people find their true calling in life. It was at that time that I met a friend of mine from India, and he invited me to India to open up such a school. We opened up the Jiva Public School based in Faridabad, where that's what we do. We help individuals find out who they are, rather than just kind of getting kids through the syllabus. We really try to get to who it is that they are. In the process, I've learned a lot about India. I've learned a lot about life and how organizations work and work well. One of the things we know about William Shakespeare, the great playwright, we know what he said about the world, right? And something about being like a stage. He said all the world's a stage. I found a very similar concept in India, the concept of Leela. That there's this great drama that is going on. And sometimes we see it with respect to the idea of Ram Leela, Krishna Leela. But if we reflect back and think about our own Leelas that we're living in our lives as educators or CLOs or HR professionals, whatever you might be, We certainly know one thing about making a successful performance, and that is to have the right players. I mean, let's just say we had Ram Leela for a moment, and in the part of Ram, we decided to cast Shakti Kapoor. बोलेगा कैसे चलेगा? चलेगा या नहीं? Wouldn't work. Or in the part of Sita, we decided that Bharati from Laughter Channel. Chalega ya nahi chalega? So we know that there are certain qualities for certain roles, and we have to get those right in order to make people succeed. It's what I call RPRP, or rather, yeah, the right person in the right place, or the right person in the right part. As opposed to WPWP, which stands for, yeah, the wrong person in the wrong part. And I am going to stand here and say that it doesn't matter how smart people are, how big the company is, how famous they are, how much money they have. I see people making this mistake all the time. Just because you might be good at one part doesn't mean that you can be great in another part. And it is a constant mistake that each one of us makes. I see myself making it all the time. I'm catching myself and I'm getting better at it. She was great when she was, a salesperson working and doing in sales. As soon as we moved her up to sales head, everything went downhill. What happened? And all those words start coming out, comptroller. I believe it's more a matter of getting the right people into the right parts. It's interesting when we think about companies and acting and stages, because even when we talk about a group of actors, they are called an acting company or troupe. A company like companion. People who come together. When we think about a companion, it's almost like a friend, right? People who come together for a single purpose. In fact, companies are actually legal entities. They're considered people. They're groups of people who are treated as a person. The sum total of their personalities make up that one company. So if we can get our right people into the right parts, that's where we're going to start making success. With that, I bring you to the concept of multiple natures, how I actually do that. It's a philosophy that you might be aware of, Howard Gardner's concept of multiple intelligences. Anybody heard of it before? Am I? A few of you. If you were in educational circles, school, I would see probably about 80% of the hands going up. In 1983, Howard Gardner from Harvard University, one of America's most celebrated educators, came out with a theory that challenged the idea of IQ, that there's only one way to be smart. We used to look at smartness or intelligence as a single property. That you are either really smart or kind of smart or not very smart, somewhere on a continuum like weight or height or age. But Gardner said that there's more than one way to be smart, and each person has a bouquet or variety of traits inside of him, such as bodily intelligence, being smart with the body, like such as Rudolph or Hrithik Roshan, people who are good with using their bodies. That there's interpersonal intelligence. Some people are people. And you know that. You know it about yourself as well. Some of you, if you're on a train or a plane and there's some person next to you, first thing you do, you sit down, hey, where are you going? And other people are there, you got your iPhone on with the headphones and you got your book open, or you're just praying that I hope this guy doesn't start talking to me. It's a long flight. Some people are people. Some are more logical, they're more numeric in their treatment of things. Some are more linguistic, they have a way with words. Some are more visual, they're graphic, they draw pictures, they're good with matching colors and things like that. Others are more musical. Some people are intrapersonal. They're deep thinkers. They reflect a lot. And lastly, there's something called naturalistic intelligence, which is that they're connected strongly to plants, nature, animals, the environment. There are 8 of them. We each have all of them, but to different degrees. That uniqueness makes up our particular behaviors or personality. Now, when I liked this idea and I used this concept at the Jiva Public School for a number of years, I found it was a little bit limiting. Because it didn't tell me that why somebody becomes, let's just say, a chef, like Sanjeev Kapoor. Where does it come from exactly? I could see some qualities that might be there in a chef, but not all of them. Or why does somebody become a Cyrus Brocha or a Johnny Lieber? Comedians, some people who are really funny, where do they get it from? I couldn't exactly find it in this model either. And I kept looking at different types of professions, whether it was salespeople or whether it was business people, and I wasn't finding it here. For that, I looked to other models. I looked into India's traditional models as well, and I derived a model which I call multiple natures, which looks at not just your intelligence or your ability, but your behavior, the way that you act. Here are the 9 natures that I identified. The first is a protective nature. This is the tendency to prevent harm, loss, or injury. You'll see it in a Kejriwal, or Anna Hazare, or Kiran Bedi, or R.K. Pachauri, Terry. People want to protect and preserve. An educative nature, those people, I like to say, they like to samjhaw other people. Folders in there, subfolders. They like to tick things off. Administrative people. Creative people, those people who they ideate all the time. They always have another idea and another idea followed by another idea. There's something called a healing nature, which is the tendency to get people out of pain or suffering. We see it in certain doctors, we see it in certain healers. Even among your family and friends, I'm sure there's somebody who you know in your home or in your office who's always poking their nose into your health business. Right? You know, they're giving you some remedy or some suggestion, some nuske that your dani don't use. There's an entertaining nature, those people who like to make others laugh and entertain. Yeah. A providing nature, those who like to help, to serve, to khilao. There are certain people who really love to give. It's a providing nature. The last 2, entrepreneurial, the tendency to create value or extract value. And finally, an adventurous nature, tendency to take risk. I'll put them side by side for a minute. And what's really interesting about the matrix that you can see here is that you can look at just about any job or any type of task, and you can see which of these qualities is required by that job or task. In other words, I mean, let's just take, for example, if somebody was going to be a really good salesperson, they had to do sales, go out and which of these MIs or MNs do you think would be important? Interpersonal, obviously, if you're going to sell, you have to be talking to somebody. Sure, they have to be good with people. Any other? Logical, right, because you're talking numbers when you're selling. Linguistic will probably be important if you've got to communicate with them that way. But what more most important, probably? Probably it could be. Something, but on the right side, second to last, entrepreneurial, right? That person doesn't know how to extract value. It's a key quality. We could pick up another one. Let's just say that somebody was a project manager. Which are the 2 or 3 most important qualities that you see? Administrative has to be there. If it's a project manager and they lack administrative capacity, doesn't matter how nice they are, how interpersonal they are, or anything else, they're going to fail in their job. So what I want to do is, I want to take a look, I'll in fact walk you through one person's qualities. There's a person who we'll look at, and some of his qualities are strong and some are weak, and we'll cast him into different jobs and see how he fares. So what you're looking at right now is a person's different abilities. So each of the bubbles represents one of his MIs or MNs. And if it's a big one, it means he's strong at that. And if it's a small bubble, it means he's weak at that area. And closer to the center of the circle means that that particular quality is required by that job. So for example, if we look at a sales manager has to be, like you told me, administrative, some of the words, entrepreneurial, logical, interpersonal. These are the qualities required by a sales manager. But we can see that this person has some strengths which are sort of like, outside. He has one or two strengths in the middle, but more of his strengths are lying outside. Might do okay in this job, but probably not fantastic. A telemarketing executive would require different skills. We have a few more of his skills coming into the center, so you might be a little bit better at this particular role. How does that one look to you? Probably a little bit better. We see a lot more strengths coming into the middle. A site engineer. Doesn't look good for this guy. In the center you have visual and administrative and spatial. Those aren't his strengths. His strengths are lying further to the outside. A business analyst. This person is much more fit for this role because his strengths bunching up toward the center. Or an online community manager would also work well for this person. So it's just a way to visually show how qualities would align themselves better with certain types of roles. But the problem is that we see a person doing well as, let's just say, a marketing executive, and then as soon as we shift him into telemarketing, he starts, his quality or his performance drops. Or if we switch him over into sales, we find that it also doesn't work. Quote from the Gita, Krishna telling Arjuna, it's far better to perform one's own tasks imperfectly rather than to perform someone else's tasks with perfection. When a man does the work that is prescribed to him, no sins or sinful desires infect this man. So part of the challenge, quite often, as people are progressing and they're evolving, they're looking to take their next step in their growth. Quite often, they take a step into a hole, and they wind up making a big mistake in where it is that they're going. Krishna here telling Arjuna that your work here, as I would interpret, means what you are meant to do, the qualities that you have, the type of jobs that would align with your particular nature, that's what you should be doing. Whether you're a programmer, a lot of times you'll see this, a programmer wants to become a project lead. Won't work. One of the things I've done to facilitate the process of helping people find out their natures and to find out the type of work that's good for them. We made a site called Multiple Natures website, which you can check out, multiplenatures.com. When you do the test, it will show you a graph of your particular qualities, where you're strong, where you're weak. And it will also recommend particular careers for you in different roles that you could take up in an area of work. And there's match percentages that show that which type of work would actually be better for you. We've been working with Education Times, we've worked with Times Jobs, we've even worked with various schools, SOS Children's Villages, organizations like the Chopras, in helping people to find out which types of careers would be best matched to them. We work with a number of companies as well, and it's a new area for us that we're now starting to explore. We're very much interested to see how the model can fit well and to help CLOs, to help HR managers to find out the right fit for the right part for different people in their organization. The last 5 years, I've spent more in schools and in colleges teaching kids about the idea of multiple natures because it was a chicken and egg situation. I decided to go with the egg and to get kids to understand the concept of MN, so they start to pick the right roles. By the time they get to your companies and you start recruiting them, you're going to have more than 2 lakh people who I've already interacted with, who are going to know where they're strong and be on the right types of paths when they get to you, that they'll have actually the qualities for the job that they're applying for. So what is it that you can do? A couple of things. You can use MN as a tool to empower your team. If you go to the multiplenatures.com site, you can check it out. There's a lot of information about how you can do so. I have a book that I've written, which is called Solving the Ice Cream Dilemma. The ice cream dilemma is just that when there are too many options of ice cream, you can't make a choice. In the same way, when there are too many career options, it's hard to choose, and sometimes we choose the wrong flavors. So Solving the Ice Cream Dilemma tells you how to make the right choice in terms of careers. The MN test is available. You can go online. Anybody can take it. There's a professional test. It's a test for students. And if you're interested to become a mentor for students through the website, there are a lot of individuals who are looking for guidance in terms of getting onto the right path. So if you're really an educator through and through and you want to work as a mentor and do something to help the upcoming generations, you have the ability to do so through the site. So with that, I want to say thank you for some contact information. Again, my appreciation to people for the great work that they're doing and for having me with you today. I thank you.